Good morning. Good morning. How are you guys doing?
Hey.
For those of you who can't see us, maybe we'll throw some video up. We're trying to find the best spot in Ken's upstairs studio here on our new digs, and now we're in a little alcove with a sun coming in and trying to find what works. So hopefully this sounds better.
This is kind of a nice. I mean, the window view is pretty
cozy.
cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful day today too. So.
Every week we're inching closer and closer to our final spot.
The final frontier.
Once we have our final spot, what we're going to do is hopefully do a video show.
Yeah.
Throw it on YouTube.
Absolutely.
And,
We need to get
have
an
a little
on-air
set.
sign though, blinking red.
You know what? I was trying to remember this morning. I was going to write in big letters, recording on the door.
No, that's okay. I'm sure we'll be done.
Forgot.
Yeah.
So-
Little red light going on.
Yeah. So we may get a few people in the background. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. We've got some guests coming up. So if you guys are enjoying the podcast the last few weeks, I know we had Taylor on. That was a lot of fun. I enjoyed her. She had a lot of.
Yeah, she was great.
She's a smart woman. We've been batting around this idea of talking about how do we market ourselves. I always struggled, and I don't think it's unique, but one of the things that I always was not good at, I got better at it as time went by with my agency was, I would always say the old saying is, the cobbler's children have no shoes. Mm-hmm. And I think it's so easy to really get out there and market your clients and do amazing work and create some amazing social media and ads and drive traffic. And we all have case studies of success of things we've done for our clients, but it's really hard to do that for yourself.
Can we talk a little bit about why we think that is? It's baffling
Because
to
we don't
me.
pay ourselves and we're not.
Yeah.
Someone's not there.
But
writing us a check.
even when agencies try and market themselves, a lot of times it doesn't feel genuine. It doesn't feel like. Clearly you're marketing and advertising experts. A lot of agencies are. Not every agency. Yet when they go to do their stuff, it's like. It just feels clunky and weird a lot of times. Mm-hmm. We've had that. I would say that we're constantly working through that, but you just see that over and over again. Why is that? Brad, you have any insight on that?
Geez, I don't know. I'm like, I think.
What did the big advertisers?
We don't have
do?
shoes sometimes ourselves in our agency. We struggle with that. I think it's a value. For me personally, I think. We're kind of like that. We spend all of our time on clients and ourselves. We sometimes neglect. And I try to even tell my employees, we need to be our number one client internally as our agency. And it's really difficult to get employees on board with that. Not because they can't mentally get on board with that. It's just the time. It's just time consuming. So anything good, I think, takes a little bit of time, obviously, and resources and efforts. And I find that sometimes when this business, we're so stressed to get deadlines and client work out that we do neglect our own stuff. And I think it takes time. And anything, and if you're trying to rush through stuff that you're doing yourself, that self-promotion, sometimes it doesn't. You almost want it to be so good because it's a direct reflection of what you're going to do for your clients. And as a perfectionist myself, I tend to overwork things and try to get it 100% when really 85% is great, and so I don't know about you, but
no, I think the same thing. I think for me, it just seems marketing your agency is kind of difficult,
it's like writing your own resume. Typically, if you have someone else write your own resume, they will do a much better job at positioning you and your history and what you want to do. Sometimes you get so close to yourself, especially as a leader of an agency, that you have a hard time understanding who you are anymore and how to present yourself. I think.
I think, and I agree. I think one of the challenges that I've experienced is you want to fall into what everyone else does, which then makes you just wanting the same with everybody else.
Yeah.
And then, there's also this culture of exaggeration. Or I don't even know, maybe it's not, but it's this, hey, look at all this awesome stuff we did, and so everyone's screaming at 10. And how do you differentiate from that? There's just so much volume.
It's hard because I think putting energy into stuff that's for your agency, self-promotion and content. It takes a lot of work, and you have to start seeing some return on investment on it. For me personally, otherwise it starts to feel like it's just a labor of love, just to have something out there. What I found is that clients don't really follow you much as an agency once you start your relationship with them. It's like they don't go and look at your social media a lot. They're not looking at what you're producing all the time. It's nice to know that you're doing that stuff, but they don't. They're busy too, so they just want their work done, and they want to make sure that their stuff is done great. But it definitely, I think there's a strong need for content development when it comes to new business, especially different types of agencies, for sure. We haven't done a lot of it ourselves, as much as we would like to, and we're still kind of personally on the fence of whether or not, like, most of our new clients most of them come from personal relationships versus seeing us online somewhere, just because of the type of agency that we have. So,
and that's pretty typical, I think. Personal relationships kind of drive for most agencies most of the business. But that's great. That's probably the warmest audience. That's the one most likely to convert. But how do you, once you expend that, or how do you scale past that?
Yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with your what kind of agency you are and what you do. For the first several years of my agency, I never had to advertise or market, because I was so niche in what I was doing that the relationships and word of mouth was more than sufficient. But if you're competing in obviously a noisy market, all the more reason. And so I think you always have to be advertising yourself. But there's different ways to do it, and there's many different philosophies. You just got to find what's for you. And I know for you, Ken, you guys you're more the face of Medicake, and you do a lot of videos. They're entertaining, sometimes they're funny, but at the end of the day, no, I'm saying sometimes they're serious.
Sometimes we try and they don't work.
Yeah, but you're ultimately talking about what you guys do and offer. I know for me, one of the things that was really successful was I tried to blog and write a lot and try to position myself as somebody who knew what they were talking about in that field. And so, the term thought leader is kind of overused, but that's one way to do it. And I see other agencies that literally go old school. I mean, I can drive down the highway this morning and see signs for advertising and marketing agencies, that are out there. So I don't think there's any right or wrong way, but I do think it's more imperative when you're in a competitive market, because it's easy when you're boutique, you're focused on a niche, to kind of have those relationships. But I think you have to get out ahead of it always. I think that's my thing, is if I could leave any wisdom with anybody listening today, is you've got to get out ahead of it, and you've got to always be 3 steps ahead.
So Bob, you've always had a theory on this, and I think this is the topic that we discussed. Like, what are we going to talk about today? I think there's this sort of general idea, how do you market yourself, but then even just sub to that, what's a good content strategy? Because it seems to be, it's the number one way to market yourself, at least right now in our experience. And everyone tries to do it, and some do it really, really well, and some don't. And what is the difference? What makes a good one? What doesn't? And you've had some predictions. I know you've told me about where agencies need to go, and how, maybe you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, I've been saying for years that agencies need to stop thinking of themselves as a marketing or an advertising, but really see themselves as a media company, as producers. So that's what you do. We create media. So it's easy in the old days, to create an ad and then go and place it, and whether on television or print. And when I say easy, it's easy to define yourself in that context. Not that that's easy. But today we're creating all types of media. So we're creating social, digital. We're creating videos. We're creating graphics. We're creating all types of apps, whatever it may be. How we're delivering. There's different platforms. We really are a production house many times. And if you can shift your mindset to say, we're a media company, we're producers of media, then all of a sudden you're able to say, okay, what kind of media am I going to produce for myself? And am I producing something that, for instance, if you go watch a movie, you can fall in love with a director or a production studio, or you can say, I really like how Spielberg does his films. There's a certain look and feel to him. I really like how, whoever else does their films, and I like their films. I think we need to take on some of that same thing of the media we produce, how we produce it, the look and feel needs to be representative of who we are. The other thing I would say, and I'm probably jumping ahead here, but I'll just throw it out and then let you guys run with it, is if somebody's listening to this and they're like, I don't have the time or the money or the team to really promote myself, the one thing that you can do, and it's an proven age-old thing, is write a book. Mm-hmm. Even if it's a 200-page book, great. If it's a 50-page book, great. Write a book. Figure out how to do it. If you don't have the chops to do it, hire someone to do it. Put your name on it, whatever, because forever you will have something that says it's out there. I can promote it different places. It's packed full of content that I can repurpose. I can always call myself an author when I'm competing against a bid of another agency, and it's put the time into it. You won't be, it's never time wasted.
Yeah. Now, Bob, how many books have you written?
3.
3. How long have they taken from like inception to?
It's
we
different.
need to do a whole episode on book writing.
know.
No, that's really good.
Sometimes they're quick, but sometimes they take a year more.
Yeah.
It just depends on how it's done and who you write them with, or by yourself, or if you have someone to help you.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's a huge endeavor. Thinking about writing a book, for me seems very daunting.
There are so I've actually never written a proper book. We've written a lot, and we've sort of self-published books, but I've been exploring this quite a bit lately, and have a lot of friends who are authors, Bob, other ones, and there are services and there are people that will help, get that across. So it's not like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like very rarely is someone, writing
by
the
themselves.
final copy by themselves.
Yeah, I've written both ways. I've written where I've written it. I've written where I have a co-author and we're sitting in a room recording chapters at a time in our, just like this, and then passing it over to a copywriter and says, take all this info and put it into it. It's not as hard as you would think, and it does seem overwhelming. But if you can devote a couple of months just digging in and saying, I'm going to get this done no matter what, or however long it takes. One of my books I wrote 11 years ago, I just got a call last week and landed a client from that book.
Oh, cool.
11 years ago. I don't do anything to him. I don't promote it. He's like, it was very niche. It was very focused. And so if somebody's in that niche and looking for that, it's one of the only books you're going to find. And so he's like, hey, I tracked you down on LinkedIn. I love your book, blah, blah, blah. I know you wrote it a long time ago, but it was still very helpful. Can you help me on this project?
Yeah.
So it not only is it can attract clients, but like I said, the content alone, you can repurpose for years into blogs, into videos, into posts, etc.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about blogs and written content. I know one of the things that, Bob, you're a big advocate of is really creating a lot of written content for the web. Just if anything else, it creates a way to drive traffic, right? SEO to your site, and maybe even publish some of the articles on third parties that could offer refer links and refer traffic and things to your site. Talk a little bit about that. I know that you've helped us, our agency, do that from time to time.
Yeah, I think I would say this. I used to have a friend. I still do have a friend. He doesn't do this anymore, and he had a company here in Nashville that focused exclusively on digital and online reputation management. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry, I couldn't think of the words. And what he dealt with, his clients were usually high-profile individuals who came to him and had either gotten in trouble, was accused of something, have a disgruntled patient, like if they were doctors, and the reputation was destroyed online. This was several years ago. It's gotten worse now. We live in a society where that's really easy to do and people are savvy. And literally, if you're a doctor or you're a restaurant, it only takes 1 or 2 negative reviews on places that are really influential to really ruin you, because you Google that person's name and up it pops, right? And one of the things that we talked about back then, this is probably 10, 15 years ago, was, and he wrote a book about it. He was he called it, online defense, social media defense, digital defense. And in those conversations with him, I realized that if you're not being on the offensive as an agency, as an individual, you're really doing yourself a disservice. And what I mean by that is Google, search engines, whatever you may use, people use, it's just taking food that's out there that's public, and they're getting the SERP results, search engine results pages. So obviously we all want to rank for high search engine results for our terms. So, marketing agency in Nashville, best e-commerce agency in the US. We'd love to have those. And so I think over time, if you see that as part of your long-term strategy of what does that look like, there are still, if you Google my agency, if you Google my name, there's stuff on there from 10, 15 years ago that's still ranking. And the value of that for me is, if anybody were to try to hurt my reputation or harm me, or if I did something really stupid and got in trouble, hurt my family, whatever it may be, it would be really hard for someone to post that online and for my reputation to be ruined. And I think you got to think about that as a business, and think about the competitors that you're dealing with, and think about those things to say, what am I doing? And let's just put it in my monthly to-do list as an agency, put it as an expense to create content to put out there. And I think that's as simple as press releases, blogs.
And I think that's
that.
good, because I think a lot of people think that the content is just to drive traffic, but maybe the content is when someone's actually researching you or your business, that they see the stuff that you promote yourself, right? Like you said, that you're in control of as far as the content and what it's saying, and the articles you're publishing, and helping, maybe a potential client see a little deeper into your agency and what you do. I always find that, when I find content on other third-party sites that are reputable, that I trust, and they're, I find articles or something about a different company or agency that would make me feel more trustworthy. Bob, I think, you subscribe to this. I don't know if you subscribe to the idea that of making content that has legs, and trying
content
to what's that?
Content generally, I think the word means it sucks, right? Like for most people, like content's like, I write
I'm a
blog post about
content writer.
Web design in Nashville, whatever, and
I'm feeding the beast with
surprisingly people still do that today. Or it's not written for search engines, but just super generic, to where it really is probably just a waste of time. And so I wanted to give a point about content. We can dig into that a little bit here as well. What is good content, what's not? But I just, you said content. I was just kind of, making sure that we understand that it's good content.
Good content, yeah. And just repurposing. There's so many channels and platforms these days, and the challenge I think that everybody has is, how do should I write unique content for every platform, or is there a way I could recycle, like a campaign where I could recycle a lot of content, a lot of art, a lot of different things that I wouldn't have to recreate the wheel. And I could create a system that would work for my agency, that I wouldn't have to put the time in that I think it could take, but I could actually put out good and valuable content that positions you or your agency, or even things that as an agency leader you might being a thought leader, right? Ideas that you want to promote out there that are different or new, or a position, I think is great. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that, because I think that's one of the things that we struggle with, being a small company, is just just finding that time as much as we want, and we try to dedicate time, and we even put it up front, and it's still so challenging. And for me, it's been difficult, because it's funny, I can prove return on investment for my clients really well. In fact, that's one of the good things that we do, that I think we do really well. But it's harder for our agency to do it, and I haven't seen the financial results from it. I'm just being transparent to the point where I would want to put a ton of
I think it's
ton
a
of
long
resources
term.
money into it, that would blow it up, like with big expensive videos and all that stuff.
It's a long-term play. It's not short-term. You might not see anything for 2 years, but
I guess I'm short term.
I'm not saying that.
I'm short term. And I mean, as any business, right? You're just thinking like the next 3-4 months. It's like 6 months down the road, and 2 years from now, like I don't even know if what Facebook is gonna look like in 2 years. Who knows? Or any other.
Well, we know that. I don't think search engines and Google will change a ton.
No.
And I think if you look at it from that perspective, to go to your first question, I think always original content, fresh, relevant content is the best. Like that's tier one. You should always strive for original, fresh, relevant content.
Yeah.
Second tier is you can always curate content. And, we've talked about this, and the one thing that we always did too is it's okay to editorialize other types of content too. So if you're like, I don't know what to write, I don't really have any content, I'm out of ideas, and I'm not a creative writer, well, take something that's happening in the world and just write your opinion about it, and then repost that with a link to it.
Yeah.
That's another way. So if something's happening in the tech world with a rag or a magazine or a site or a group that you follow that comes out, a news article, write about that. And just attribute it, and make sure that you put a link to that article, and you'd be surprised how that alone can be something that somebody's like, oh, that's an interesting perspective on that event or on that product or on that technique.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I think, Bob, you taught me, is to take a look at what the news is of the day and what's hot right now, what people are talking about, and then talk about it in your perspective, in your industry, and how it relates to your industry. Which I think was really cool. We've done a few articles in our blog around things at the time that were hot topics, and it's one of those things is you can post them on social, you get the interest just in the topic alone, and then you have a different angle of how you're relating to it, to your business or industry. And I think it serves as something that's a legacy out there, and it's a something that people will find and come to your site.
One of the things, and I'm gonna turn this over to Ken, because you guys are doing this really well. So I'm gonna give you a segue here. Joe Rogan says he's got the biggest podcast in the world, right? And it's millions and millions of people, probably one of the most influential media people right now. And people are always saying, he's like, how did you do this? Like, you're amazing. This podcast is huge. I can't believe I'm on your podcast. And his response to me is always interesting. It's like, I just showed up every day and I did it. Yeah. I didn't plan this. There's no magic to it. I just showed up. And after 10 years, this is what happened. And I think that's a great testimony to say, if you're willing to invest in content and just show up and do it, it will take on a life of its own by its sheer volume and its sheer weight and its sheer. And so now
you'll get better at it.
So now he does a podcast, and not only does he have millions of people listening to it on their iPhones or whatever, but people are writing about it, and there's an article, and there's a video, and there's a meme about every single episode, simply because he showed up and he did it. Now, certainly he's got he certainly has celebrity power, and he had a little bit of a platform to start.
It was fairly small, though.
But
I mean,
it was
it wasn't.
small.
He wasn't
Anyone can do it.
A level. I wouldn't
Yeah.
consider him a level celebrity before that,
Right.
or something like that.
Yeah. So my point is segue
Yeah.
to you.
No, I think that was gonna be my point. Is I think to do content well, you just, like anything else. Like, I really think 80% of the battle is just doing it consistently and doing it. Now, if you
Ken makes us come and do this podcast.
yeah, right, every morning. Don't give up. No, so I think there's a few like nuances to that, in my opinion, but like you have to if what you're doing never improves and you do that consistently, it probably will go nowhere. But like, if you're like, hey, I'm not sure exactly what we're supposed to do here, but I know a kind of around the arena of what I think, and that can change, and you just start consistently doing it. You just become better at it. And I believe that if you do it that way, and you're actually looking for the thing that you're kind of trying to hone in on, the point of view, your personality, whatever that is, I think that eventually you'll find that if you're consistently doing it. That's just my opinion on it. But I have learned that from other things in life, from other people too. I mean, it's not even just me, but consistency is, in sports, in any skill that you have, consistency is what kind of breeds success. And so, I would say, I think one of the secrets to having a good content strategy is finding something that you're passionate about. So like, whether it's a point of view, or just something that's maybe counterintuitive. You talk about this all the time, Bob, but just a different point of view and something that you're actually passionate about. Like, what is the formula that you found? And that's been watered. That phrase maybe has been watered down because you get a lot of gurus trying to tell you give you formulas. But like, truthfully, in your business or the people that you're talking to, I've always tried to figure out like, what is the and it's usually a very obvious thing. Like, what is the thing that just everyone overlooks, that if you focus on this thing, it's actually what is the contributor to success in that thing and what you're doing. And that can be your point of view, but like, I think finding a passionate point of view and even a passion for doing it is part of it. And like, just in my experience, like, we do a lot of content. We have created even like a system, like a content engine to try and leverage every thought, every concept, every piece into, articles and chapters of books that we're slotting to be written, and videos and different things like that. But we certainly have this. We've matured in that engine, and we've been able to leverage that. But at the end of the day, like when we started, it was just, I have a friend who, maybe we can get him on. His name's Joel. He runs content strategies, and he helps people do this. And he actually is the one that kind of gave me the idea, or it's his idea that I took and kind of ran with. But we would just do 4 blog posts a month, and he would actually help us pick the topics, and I just get on the phone with him, do an interview, 15 minutes per post, and then they would go write it. And then eventually we started writing it, and this was probably 8 years ago, maybe more. And it was not great. It was kind of generic. We were just searching for stuff. We just continued to do. And I was personally really interested in that thing. That's part of, I guess, some of my personality, but like, I'm interested in that communication of like those concepts and those kind of things. So I definitely had a bit of a passion, but as you pursued that, it just kind of evolved, got better and better. But at the beginning, it sucked. I mean, it was not good. And you can go back probably on our site, and we may not even have them anymore, but like, you could find some of the early articles, and they're not good. There are some that were decent, but like,
but are
for the most
many
part,
of those still on Google out there?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I mean, the search strategy is a completely different topic, like we were alluding to, which we can discuss. But like, in my opinion, this is not contradicting what you said, but in my opinion, you should not write for search engines. Like, you should write for people.
Right.
Yeah. Find your passion, and then get the best of both worlds. Then also be intelligent about how do we like make this align with like, so be strategic about it. Part of being strategic is talking about the right topics. Like if you just talk about random topics that don't associate with the services you sell, that obviously wouldn't be strategic, right? So you want to be passionate. You want to help align them with the services that you have and some of the products you have, and also strategically align them with Google and the other platforms where people find stuff, right? And if you do that, I've definitely had this conversation with people who it's not easy. Like you have to think outside the box. You have to be willing to brainstorm and, how in the world can this passion of mine that has nothing to do with my business actually be part of how I discuss our service. I mean, you got to get creative. Like that's, I guess, part of it, but committing to doing it. And I would say, just Brad, to your point, and I'll shut up a little bit, but like it is, I don't even know right now that I can directly attribute like we don't get sales that come in through certain posts or videos. Like that is so hard to figure out. I don't even think we've necessarily even seen that directly, maybe a couple times, but for our clients, we always, we're in e-commerce. And so like in e-commerce, you're spending a large percentage of your revenue on paid ads, right? And so when you're doing that, you're running on all sorts of platforms, and our clients are always trying to figure out what platform's working. And it's extremely hard because ultimately, one ad doesn't contribute to a conversion. We know that. And so we've always preached that, hey, you know what? We can try and find what's working. But at the end of the day, like, what are we spending to what are we making? That's kind of like our 30,000 foot metric. And as long as that's in line, we're spending X amount on marketing and X amounts coming in and going up, where it's worth it. I kind of look at the same with us. Like, I don't know what post or video or book or ebook or article or whatever is working necessarily, but we are trying to continually, of course, look for that and align things. But at the end of the day is like, what are we spending in marketing and what are we putting out there as far as content? Our main marketing strategy is content. And, what do the key metrics in the business look like? The sales, the inquiries, those kind of things.
Yeah, I would say too that someone listening may say, "Well, Ken, that's a little naive." But let me give an example of where that's not naive, and it's with you guys specifically. So, for instance, I know that you guys have landed, let's say, in the past several months, a couple of really good-sized clients that are, corporations and companies that are, if we were to say their names, people would know them immediately. And they've hired you for consulting and coaching, right? Okay, so if the CEO or CMO or director of marketing says, I'm gonna go out and we need some coaching and some consulting on e-commerce, what are they gonna do? They're not gonna look up, go to the phone book or go to their Google and go, okay, who's an e-commerce company here locally? What they're gonna do is they're gonna go and say, who has that content? Who's the smartest? Who has the chops to come into our Fortune 500 or Fortune 5000, whatever it may be, company and consult us, our 20-person marketing team about e-commerce? The way they're going to do that is they're going to go out and they're going to research it. They're going to find who has the videos, who's talking, who's writing, who has the books.
Well, they're going to find the people talking.
They're going to find the people talking
for
about
sure.
it.
Yeah,
and that's where it pays off.
Yeah.
Because can you talk about that briefly?
No, I mean, I think that also when they find the people talking, there's a lot of, I do believe in being, you got to be different than the rest. And there are a lot of people yelling the same things. So in our industry, there are a lot of like growth hacker, and we even did like a video spoof on it, but like, we're kind of like the counter to that. Mm-hmm. We're about healthy growth, and that's just our take, but it's counterintuitive to the marketplace. Mm-hmm. And so, let's just be honest with you, like giant, and we work with them, like these giant high profile brands, like say Old Spice, they don't want like the growth hacker Red Bull drinking guy like that or gal. Like I know they don't want that. They want someone who they know has done this before and can manage and be comfortable in their 100 million plus or whatever, store. And so anyway, we saw that as an opportunity. So that's been part of our personality, and we definitely, have other sort of like things that we push on. But point being is, you've got to be you have to be one of the voices in the conversation, hopefully the voice in your niche, and that's actually maybe a one reason to niche down or to specialize, because it's hard to be the voice when it's just sort of maybe general marketing, I would say, or web design or whatever your agency does. But I think you have to be one of the voices in that area, and it's really like, I see it as planting seeds. And especially, if you shuttle back to episodes, I think at the beginning of this kind of the pandemic thing, we talked about what some of the opportunities that we were seeing were, and then you also probably, and you can listen back and hear how we discuss how business was, right? So new sales, for our business were down, but we were continuing to plant seeds. There was this like appetite for content, like good content. And again, content's such a crappy word, but like there was an appetite for good educational, like stuff that people could do to help themselves or their business. And so in our specialty, we were just trying to do that. We were doing masterminds for e-commerce. We were doing, all sorts of virtual events. We have a lot of content already, so we just doubled down on giving that away and promoting it. We've got some books and guides that we sell that we actually discounted. We did all this stuff to push it out there. We actually spent quite a bit more money than we've ever spent on marketing and paid ads in a time when, revenue was lower than average. But we believed in that. And so I think the long way of saying this is like you're planting seeds for the longer term, and
yes,
we're starting to see those seeds flourish, even over from the last 3 months. And like you said, we've had the outreach from some really high profile brands just recently, sheerly based on that awareness that we were creating and the content and those kind of things. And I'm not surprised, because that is what works in business, right? You have to balance short-term activities that drive revenue and then long-term activities that, I've said it before, I call it the money box in the Eisenhower matrix. It's the important but not urgent stuff. And like what you're becoming as a business, like what are you supposed to be 5-10 years from now? What should you look like? That's kind of the important, not urgent stuff, and that's the stuff that you need to start planting seeds for. And so for us, I believe a big part of who we are as a publishing company, a media company, like you said, and so we're planting seeds for that. And those seeds also, grow and produce sales. Now, the short-term stuff, I would say, are things like personal relationships and partner networks, and that stuff where you can like make a call and get in the room with a meeting that might lead to a sale. But the long-term stuff is like building your brand with authority, so that when cold prospects come in, they're not really cold, and they actually, are higher quality and likely to convert. And I think, I don't know, we can debate it, but I haven't found any other way strategically other than really good content. And when I say content, like educate and have an opinion and have a personality and make people laugh and also get something out of it, or cry or be really serious, whatever that is, like be something different than all the noise out there.
Be yourself, for one thing.
Be yourself and figure out what that is. It actually takes some soul searching, I would say.
Yeah.
You probably do need a personality on the team.
And I think everyone's different. I'm a little bit of the wizard behind the.
You are a wizard. You wear that hat all the time.
Jeez, yeah. No, I mean, I'm like the wizard.
Got it on now.
The Wizard of Oz. The guy behind pulling the strings behind the curtain, but not. Sometimes maybe out front, not the, is.
You should stop using the cane, though.
I know.
It's kind of weird, man.
I know, especially when I hit people with it. They don't like it. How does your employees, like, and your team and your staff, how do they get behind you with your internal promotions and content and things that you do? Because I know you spend a lot of time, at least from my perspective, and I could be wrong, it seems like you spend a good 30%, 40% of your personal time on your promotion of your business and marketing your business. Tell me how that works with your team, and when they have a deadline that's due or something going on, how do you
Sorry, I was just looking at the room full of T-shirts.
There's a room full of T-shirts.
There's a fax machine. I see a fax machine over there, right next to the 8-track.
That fax machine is part of a shoot that we were doing.
It's a prop.
It is a prop. It's pretty funny, actually.
No, you were just talking about 30 to 40% running a business, and we're sitting amongst Medicaid T-shirts of many different types and designs.
Yeah, we've got this pretty soon. This will have a lot more production equipment hanging from the ceiling. So again, I think being genuine is really important, because I think I've debated this in my head, that exact question, and I think if you're not genuine and it's really contrived, like you put a content strategy out that's not true to who you are, I think people will feel that hypocrisy, and I imagine it'd be harder to get behind long term. But the truth is a big part of our heart, what we believe our purpose as a business and our mission is, even from for myself, even down to a spiritual side of things, is helping people with our skills. Like that, I believe I believe the product that we make is, and I believe the product that most agencies make is they sell information and experience. Like, you're brokers of experience and information, and you might deliver that by creating a website, or you might deliver that by writing a book, but you're still like brokering information and experience. And so I've tried to intentionally instill that in our team and discuss it. And then, well, what's one of the highest leverage ways of distributing that? If I was like saying, okay, if I have this valuable information, let's assuming that I do, if I believe I have this, what's one of the best ways to get it out there? Working one-on-one is one way, but it's not going to hit the most people, but it will have a lot of impact. But I also want to hit the other side of the pie, which is like help a lot more by creating content that can go further, that might be more digestible, easier to digest, all that kind of stuff. I think that all that conversation, that soul, and being genuine about it has helped make it like a mantra. Like, our team is excited about, educating our world with how to create a better business using e-commerce. And we get to teach people things about, practically, how you launch initiatives and do those kind of things. But also, like, there's a big part of our business, and every business, that's just, hey, really good leadership, like having a healthy business, like stuff that has nothing to do with actually the specialty or industry that you have. And we've been fortunate enough to have a lot of people speak that into our lives. And so we've learned that, and everything we learn in our business, we repackage and also distribute that kind of content. And that's a big part of what we talk about in the context of, the e-commerce world, because we wrap it in that, because it's valuable for them, but we wrap it in that same wrapper, so it's not weird. But we're talking about all those different types of things, and I think, our content, we try and make it, we say entertain and educate, like that's our goal. And even if you're an executive at the top direct consumer company in the world, you can still laugh, and so we're not gonna, our brand is not to sit there with tie and white shirt and be a talking head, but we want to have a personality that's true to our personality, and that's a little bit fun. It's a little bit sarcastic and funny, and anyway, all those different personality aspects, which we've done some thinking about, by the way, before we've done these things. We try and
be willing to be self-critical and laugh at yourself, because I think I know in doing things like that, you have to say, well, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Some people sometimes I don't get any views and people don't find it funny, and then sometimes it really works and we get a nugget out of it. But you've got to be willing to go through that process and be self-deprecating.
We have so in e-commerce, like Q4 is like the big time of year, right?
Yeah.
Like the kind of Christmas holiday season, and so everyone's planning for that. And so there are some strategies that you can implement to kind of make the most of that going into it. And so we often teach those things. So, we did a video teaching about that stuff. You can go probably look at it on our YouTube page if you wanted to. But then the front, we always try and do a hook, which is like a funny or something that'll grab someone's attention. So the hook on that one was, what was it? Was don't let the geek Grinch steal your Christmas. So stupid, right? I came up with that. So it's like this. Again, it's like we try and keep the hook short, so it's like about 30 seconds of this Grinch. We got a full-on Grinch outfit, and this Grinch like hacking an e-commerce store. It's like so dumb. But it was kind of funny, and my kids really liked it.
Ken makes his videos for his kids.
Yeah, and so you can go look that up. We did a Santa one anyway. With that Grinch one, what was interesting is we got one comment on there which was like, it was the first comment. Like as soon as we released it, it was the first comment. Goes, it was like LOL. Why is the front so funny, or why is the beginning so funny? Like the guy didn't get it. He didn't get it all. So it didn't land. I mean, it maybe made him laugh, but like he didn't get the whole video. Like because we went from that into like teaching a concept, you know. Anyway, so sometimes they fail. I don't know if that was a failure. That definitely
is the
was
Grinch coming back this Christmas?
Oh, it's coming back, baby.
Oh man, I'm excited to see the Grinch.
Brad, I know you guys. Year or so back, did some really high-end sessions, lunchtime sessions near your office in a theater there, and you were
those were
made
awesome,
it free.
by the way. Yeah.
And to this day, by the way, just so you'll know, if I mention your agency, I'll say, "Hey, do you know Brad from Anthem Republic?" More than once, they've said, "Wait, he did that thing down at the factory
we've
where
had
he did
a
the
lot of people.
presentation."
Yeah.
So kudos to that. And just so you'll know, you may say, "I don't know what the return was, or if it cost us a lot of money." The awareness that you put out there for your agency is still getting returns, in my opinion.
Yeah. People come up to me and ask me if we're still doing those. So we did those for just so people can have a context. We did a social media morning where we rented out in our offices. There's right next to is a little theater that has about 130 people, and we rented it out and put on a little these little hour and a half mornings of social media. We talk about what's going on in social media. We had a lot of guests on, and it was a live event, coffee and donuts and stuff in the morning. So I think people came out for
More of a community service.
Yeah, very community service to give back. It really came out of like we had a lot of companies, especially small companies, that came to us that wanted to help with their marketing and some social media and media ads and paid ads, and we just really couldn't afford to engage with them because they just didn't really have much of a budget that we could really work with ourselves as an agency. And so, like, how can we give back and give, some information to small businesses, help some small businesses? And so we started them, and they were a good success. It was led by one of our employees, and we had a couple of people, and they were good. It was one of those things, though. I think we had to kind of decide where we're going to spend our money as far as promotion and marketing, and we decided to slow those down. Maybe in the future we'll put them back up again.
I want to encourage. I want to encourage you to keep doing them because my team attended a bunch of them.
Yeah,
and I always thought like so one of the challenges is like the content itself. Like, does it deliver any value? And I thought it was very good at that. For even for us who do these things, we'd learn some things, or be reminded of some things we write down legitimately, and then your guests were really good, and the presentation was really good. Yeah, you had several people present or be like host, and they're kind of goofy and also really good at delivering valuable information. Yeah. So it was like a really good personality.
Yeah, you got to have the right person inside your agency that can help. Yeah. Produce them, I think, or have a good producer who understands the content really well.
Those people may be more common here in Nashville because we got a little more entertainment industry type stuff. Yeah, I know. But you get those people who are like, comfortable hosting something. But that was really good, and in my opinion, you should. I mean, I would totally be on board with you continuing to do that. Yeah. Maybe I'll even sponsor it or something like that. No, but also
you heard it here first.
Just to get me to promote to do it.
In all seriousness, I thought it was so good. And you're probably wondering, okay, well, what was the return? We didn't get any business out of each one. And just so you know, from my experience too, like we rarely get high quality direct response business from any one thing that we do. It's usually, generally, you get lower quality inquiries on those things, but overall, like, they become higher quality as well.
I imagine, Brad, that's an example of an extreme of high time intensive production, maybe even cost. So I think what we're talking about here today is, that's one extreme, which I know you only do things that are excellent and good and excellent. And then we've also talked this morning about, or today, about, just doing blog, just get it done, just show up. And I think you've got to find what works for you, your personality. But at the end of the day is just show up, just do something regularly, just once a week, whatever it is, create some sort of small piece of content, good, huge, small, big, whatever.
And be yourself.
And be yourself.
And also, like, I'm guessing with your events, the biggest barrier was maybe your time commitment that you have to put into thinking through what are we going to talk about, what are we going to do, how are we going to promote this. Like, it's a big time commitment for somebody. And so be ready to do that, because I think that's probably the biggest challenge is, for me, I had to dedicate most of my time to this strategy. I couldn't do it in the margins. It was, you could do little things, but but if you're going to do an event and it's going to be a good event, you got to just do the event, but it also has to be a good event. Like, the content has to be good, and the content is what takes a while to make that good.
Correct. Yep.
I have a theory that the reason why a lot of content's bad is because people don't put a lot of time into thinking about, okay, what am I going to talk about here, and what's the personality and all that kind of stuff. And so, put that time into it to do that. I think that'll prove returns, and also just do.
Yeah, I think next time what I'd like to do is unpack this a little further and talk about the process and how to repurpose content, and maybe some of the tools that you use if you've used, Brad, and some of the strategies of, like, all right, you guys have convinced me I need to do content, but where do I start? And how do I maximize my time? Yeah. And I think we should talk about maximizing content, because
absolutely,
because I know you've done it well, Brad. I'd love to hear some of your stories of, just because of one video can turn into 10 pieces of content, or 15 or 20.
Literally everything that we do, we've boiled down to one single concept that gets brainstormed, maybe 6 months in advance, and then posts and videos and books and all kinds of things get written off of that. And so I totally agree. You have to make one thing kind of leverage into as much as possible. So
yeah, and what that means is, for those people that are listening to this, feeling a bit overwhelmed of one more thing to add to my plate, maybe think of it as, maybe it's one big thing I do at the beginning of the month, spend a few hours on it, that I can then chop up, leverage, repurpose into something that lasts the whole month. So we can talk about that.
That'd be cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Good conversation, guys.
Yeah,
Until next time.
Yeah. Go hit the day.
Yeah.
See you.
Bye.